1-800-597-4816. That's 1-800-597-4816. 1-800-597-4816. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda at 106.5 FM, K293CF, Moreno Valley.
Tell weeds where to go with Chateau herbicide from Valent USA Corporation. Growers and PCAs count on Chateau because it's effective on more than 90 of the toughest winter annual broadleaf and grass weeds in crops like almonds, pistachios, walnuts, grapes, and alfalfa. Chateau delivers proven long-lasting residual control, and Chateau can be used on new plantings and young non-bearing trees and vines. Even better, Chateau is weather-ready and farm-ready. Chateau stays where you put it and doesn't photodegrade as it waits for moisture activation. Other pre-emergence herbicides can leach, co-distillate, and or photodegrade, reducing performance. And Chateau is activated with only a quarter inch of rainfall or irrigation water. Take control and keep control of weeds with Chateau herbicide. To learn more, talk to your PCA or go to valent.com/Chateau. And while you're there, find out how Asana XL insecticide protects trees from dormant peach twig borer. Always read and follow label instructions.
Do you even like your company website? Most of those that I've spoken to don't, especially if they bought it from some Yellow Page rep or one of those big do-it-yourself web companies. I'm Greg Hill of FlipYour.website. How about a complete redesign at only $200? You heard correctly. Starting at only $200, you can have a great-looking website with all the latest features. Your team will have complete control of your new website with the best content management system available. If needed, we will rewrite your content to make it search engine friendly. We offer inexpensive solutions for e-commerce, blogs, online chat like we have, even a CRM and more. We are SEO experts. We can drive traffic to your website and get you customers through the search engines and social media. So come online and chat with us anytime. Even our domain name is cutting edge. www.flipyour.website. Not .com. Flipyour.website. Again, flipyour.website.
Listen to KCAA Loma Linda for less confrontation and more information.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear. We're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about
From the mountains to the desert, to the oceans, to all across America, and back to sunny San Bernardino, which it is today. Welcome to the Waterzone Show, and happy Thursday to everybody. And I'm Rob Starr, along with, and today is letter M Day. So,
hey, letter M. All right.
M. So our other host is I'll go into it. The majestic, mature, magnanimous, memorable. You're not dead yet. Mesmerizing, meticulous, merry, modest, moral, motivated, magnificent, marvelous, and most of all, a monumental man in the irrigation industry, Mr. Mike Barron.
Well, thank you, Rob, for that very kind introduction, and I hope that memorial comment wasn't a Freudian slip, you know.
No.
But,
no.
no, hey, it's great.
Hey, the M's are easier than trying. The M's are easier than trying to figure out something with X's and Z's. There's not a lot of descriptive adjectives for that.
I would think U's are pretty tough.
Yes.
W for water. That might be interesting.
Yeah. We'll research.
I am just finishing a presentation over at the California Parks and Recreation Society annual event here in Long Beach, California. And it was a very interesting gathering of park folks that were interested in learning about what is going on in the state of California with respect to water conservation.
Oh.
And it was a panel discussion with presentations, but there was also information on the wide selection of native plants and how to water native plants. Very, very interesting. The speaker was from the Tree of Life Nursery, so you can Google that and check out their pretty impressive stock of drought-tolerant and native California plants.
Excellent. A lot of people?
So, this session was from 4:30. From 4:15 to 5:30, and we had about 30 people that wanted to hear about dealing with the drought when you're dealing with parks and recreational facilities in the state of California. And one sad thing, Rob, was there was a representative from the L.A. city parks, and they were saying that because of drought conditions and curtailment of water use, that something close to 15% of the trees that are within their scope of responsibility have been injured, damaged, or have had to be cut down because of drying out because of the drought. So that was really sad. They made a big point to communicate just how much value trees deliver to a community, and that parks. There are people in the city of Los Angeles that don't have air conditioning, and they go out to the parks when it gets hot in the summer, and they see temperatures that are 5 to 10 degrees cooler sitting on the lawn under a tree.
Yep.
So, that's pretty significant. I'd never thought of it from that perspective.
Yep. And it does take a long time for trees to grow. But
yes.
I think we should do a little bit of news today.
All right.
So, California storms send billions of gallons of water into reservoirs. You know about that. So
especially Lake Shasta, which is one of the biggest and most important Northern California reservoirs. Did you hear about that?
Yep.
Tell us.
Well, I'll give you a couple of things. The rains that we just had over the weekend, they pushed billions of gallons of water pouring into the state major reservoirs. And the rain reaching 10 inches or more in some mountain areas, 46 of the largest reservoirs in California, closely tracked by Department of Water Resources, collectively added 391 billion gallons of water between Friday and Monday morning.
Quick, how many acre-feet of water is that?
That's a lot.
You can calculate that for our next show, or I'll do that. Yeah. So how many billions of gallons did they say out of this one?
391 billion.
351 billion. I'll work on that.
Yep. And Los Gatos Reservoir is full.
That's fantastic. I hear that Lake Shasta is filling faster than anyone anticipated.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if that's a result of just these rains are more significant than we thought, or that the water department, the California Department of Water Resources has been working to collect more of that rainwater, more of that rain runoff into our reservoirs. Well, whatever the case is, it's likely that Lake Shasta will be full at the end of this rainy season, and that's the first time in 4 years that that's been the case. So is the drought over if Lake Shasta gets full, Rob?
Of course not.
Of course not, because there's still those aquifers. They need to get recharged.
Absolutely.
But, at least we're going to have a good start to this spring and summer.
Yep. Well, they said in Oroville, the Keystone Reservoir of the State Water Project received more water on Sunday, 104,706 feet. And according to my fingers and toes and calculators, that was acre feet. That's a lot.
Oh, wow. Yeah, 100,000 acre feet of water?
104,000 acre feet.
Oh, 4,000.
104,000 acre feet.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's still a lot of gallons because there's over 325,000 gallons in an acre foot of water.
Yep. And Loch Lomond up in Santa Cruz County did increase 5.5 feet. So that's pretty good. So that worked out. But I'll tell you a funny thing. It's hitting different industries. But you like beer?
I do enjoy a beer now and then.
Well, according to a lot of things, the California craft beer brewers balance draft and draught, and there's several different little places along California. This one brewery says California has more craft breweries, small independent beer makers that use traditional ingredients than any other state. More than 570 craft beers are in operation in California, and 240 are slated to open. And craft breweries contribute $6.5 billion to the state economy, producing 3.5 million barrels of beer. But a typical craft brewery uses up to 7 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of beer. So breweries now are starting to dig wells, installing wastewater treatment plants, and seeking exemptions from local water boards that control water use that can impose fines, and they're getting fines pretty big. And
I heard a rumor that they can pay those fines in kegs of beer. Is that right?
They'd like to. Official, just so you know, in Chico told Sierra Nevada, who makes beer, to drop its water use by 32%. And that's the nation's largest private craft brewery, already cut its percentage by 25%. Another brewery, Beer Republic Company, has taken some drastic measures. Company lost last year, pulled out of 15 U.S. markets and 4 countries after Northern California town in Cloverdale informed that they didn't have enough water to sustain it. And then, instead of moving, Bear Republic spent $466,000 to dig 2 wells for the town of 9,000 residents, and it spent an additional $4 million on its own water treatment system and electric. So they're all spending money. I mean, big money. It's not just reducing the water use; it's just the money they're doing to sustain in business. That's amazing to me.
When you make a good product, you are a private entrepreneur. Risk your own capital or the capital of the bank, depending on what the case is. You're going to work hard to make sure that your input resources are available to you because you've developed a clientele that wants your product and they're willing to pay for it.
Absolutely.
So, maybe we need to introduce Bernie Sanders to the coastal community of local craft beer makers. He might enjoy that.
That could be. They can go for sample tasting and things of that. Another interesting thing, I don't know if you heard that they're thinking about taking lake water from Alaska and shipping it to L.A. Long Beach ports by tanker. Have you heard that?
Really?
Yeah.
No. Well, think about it. Oil. I mean, if you think about, we have to do this. We have to do this calculation. I don't have it at the tip of my brain right now, but you think oil has been imported for decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't normally think of oil in barrels, importing a certain number of barrels of oil. But I wonder how many gallons are in a barrel of oil. And I wonder. I guess we ought to think that maybe. If you think about gasoline, a gallon of gasoline is say $2.50 here in California. Well, how much is a unit of water?
Well,
that's 748 gallons, but that's about $2.50.
Yep.
So.
Well, Janice Hahn, who's the Democrat U.S. representative, she says the water would be expensive, more expensive than water purchased now from water districts, but they see a need for that, and they thought it was an intriguing idea, which they're going to investigate further. So that's going to be interesting, shipping water down by that.
Yeah, but remember that desalination plant that was developed by the Israeli firm and opened there in San Juan Capistrano for San Diego County Water Authority?
Right.
Yeah, so basically they put together that desal plant and are selling water, I think, at about $4.50 per unit of water. And so that's 748 gallons for $4.50.
That's what you pay at the baseball game.
748 gallons of water than $4.50. So
yeah.
They ought to be looking at more desal plants, if you ask me.
Well, that's another thing that there's Assemblywoman Ling Chang, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She introduced a bill last week that would set state goals for generating drinking water out of the ocean. So she believes desalination in itself is drought-proof. So she's going to go ahead and push that as much as she can, which I think is a good idea. So we'll see what happens. So,
good.
Yeah. Anything else new that you see on your side?
Well, no, other than, in January, the state of California did reduce their per capita consumption of water by 17.1%, That's certainly less than the 25% that we're shooting for. And this February, is the end of the original time period in which we, as Californians, were challenged to reduce our per capita water consumption by 25%. And I think we're like at 24.7. So everybody's got to just squeeze out a little more savings. Keep those sprinkler systems off because we're expecting more rain this weekend, aren't we?
Yeah, actually tomorrow afternoon through Saturday is what we're told here in Southern California, so that we can look forward to that.
Yep, that'll be good.
Well, anyway, we got a good guest today. We have a gentleman named Mark Weston, who's chairman of the San Diego County Water Authority, and you and I had a chance to catch up with him the other day and talk about what they're doing and a little about the desal plant and some other things that they're working. So let's go to hear him and see what he says. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate you coming here and joining the Waterzone with Mike and I. Just maybe for our audience, if you can give a brief description of what San Diego County Water Authority is.
The San Diego County Water Authority is the regional wholesaler for 24 member agencies within San Diego County. So we provide the water to those member agencies, and then they are the retail agencies that deliver the water to their customers. It's about 3.2 million people are served by the San Diego County Water Authority.
Wow. So if we go back in time, just to give some more perspective to our audience, to help us understand where things stand today, can you describe for us what happened at the San Diego County's water supply during the drought of 87 through 92?
That's a great starting point because that begins quite a story by the Water Authority and their member agencies. The drought that began in 1987 became very severe, and by 91, it was clear that we were going to lose significant portion of our water supply. 95% of our water at the Water Authority was purchased from Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. So Metropolitan Water District is the wholesaler for all of Southern California, and we are one of their member agencies. So at the time, we were purchasing almost all of our water from Metropolitan. That was back then in 91, it was 95% of our water, and we had no other water supplies. So the local water developed by historically in San Diego County was basically fully utilized and was diminishing because of this severe drought. So Metropolitan in 1991 informed all of their member agencies that they had lost supplies from Northern California, and they were looking at as much as a 50% reduction in the water that they would be able to sell to their member agencies. So the Water Authority is sitting utilizing 95% of our water is from Metropolitan, and now we're being informed that we are going to lose 1/2 of our water supply. Luckily, in March of 1991, we had what we call Miracle March. It was a series of storms that arrived in San Diego and Southern California, and it softened that blow. Instead of 50% reduction over the next couple of months, it was determined that we would lose 31% of our water supply from Metropolitan, and we had no replacement water. So that began an effort to greatly reduce the use of water in San Diego County.
Was at that time, were any of the agencies that are members of the San Diego Water Authority, were any of them using tiered rate pricing or budget-based tiered rates?
Budget-based tier pricing was really not even in existence then. There were some tiered rate systems, but most of them were a rate structure in which part of your water bill was a fixed cost because you had service from the retail agency, and the other portion was volumetric based, and it was usually typically a 1 rate. Some agencies went to 3 rates, but it was so severe that it was basically price was not going to drive the reduction in water usage. It was going to be a penalty, a severe penalty, if you exceeded the amount of water your agency might have allotted to you as a customer. So there was a tremendous response. The agency that I ultimately became the general manager of is the second largest member agency in the San Diego region, and we exceeded more than 30% conservation during that period. So across the county, everybody basically just dealt with it as an emergency.
How would you relate or describe how the agencies, or maybe it was primarily the San Diego Water Authority, but to get that kind of behavior change on the part of consumers, that is a very dramatic response. Could you share with our listeners kind of the approach or the philosophy that the water agency took to accomplish that objective?
Especially that time frame, because there wasn't things on the market like smart controllers or anything back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
No, and virtually we had very little internet activity and very little connectivity for email. There's no Facebook. There was basically not the technologies that we have today in terms of the educational pieces that can be used. We approached it as it's an absolute emergency. Everybody has to cut back. And the incredible, it was the first time we ever had to put out that kind of a call. And there was just a tremendous response by all of the citizens that felt the sense of emergency. We certainly educated them through television, radio, newsprint, flyers directly to all of the customers, and it was drastic and dramatic, and the citizens just approached it as we're all in this together. It's kind of the way Northern California felt in 2014. Their wake-up call, we always talk about their drought wake-up call was 2014. Ours was in 1991.
Wow. So the immediate response was to garner the cooperation of consumers to really focus on reducing water consumption. Were there restrictions on outdoor water use back then, or was it just a overall, you need to meet your new target of reduction of X percent?
There were a lot of different tools used. I wouldn't say that it was uniform across all the districts, and of course that was the lesson learned. Cities and districts approached it differently, but almost everybody went to 2-day watering. So, the focus was definitely one, reduce your outside watering. That's something that we all are going to feel the pain. And then people were asked to flush less, take shorter showers, use less water for dishwashing, use less water for washing clothes, make sure loads were full. So all of those standard things that were shared. Do not wash cars outside. Do not have a hose that doesn't have a controller at the end of the hose. People were still turning on hoses and washing their cars with no nozzles. So it was very successful in terms of the response. There was obviously plenty of excess usage in the systems, and so the residents changed behavior, and we were able to serve everybody the water they needed, and no agency went without water or had curtailments where they actually couldn't deliver water.
So aside from your customer base, what actions or major pieces of the water of your authorities, of your your diversification strategy. What did you guys have to come up with to help support that?
Sure. Now, that really began the journey of from 1991 till today. We call it 25 years of a 25-year journey. There were a variety of different activities through that entire period. The first was immediate conservation, and then let's start talking about how we embed a different kind of landscaping standard to use less water going out into the future. And it began a lot of conversation about how do we landscape differently. Took a while to catch on, certainly a full 10 years before we had a demonstration garden where people could go and actually see what beautiful landscaping looked like using anywhere from 30 to 50% of the water. We then started, we had, right after the 91 drought, we had a very active toilet replacement program. And that for the next 10 years became a part of the way we could save water forever. And so we drove a lot of the legislation. When I say we, San Diego County Water Authority drove a lot of legislation that created things such as high-efficiency washing machines, low-flow toilets, low-flow shower heads. Our story about low-flow toilets is pretty incredible because we were the first county to really push it in the legislature, and then nationally, the toilet manufacturers were really not supportive of that concept. And ultimately, we drove the entire market. You can't buy anything but either low-flow or ultra-low-flow toilets now. And that all came out of our activities following the 1991 drought.
And really other counties also followed suit. I know L.A. County and Orange County. I mean, there was quite a period of time when even Metropolitan Water District got behind, toilet rebates to incentivize the replacement of old high-flow toilets.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we've done a really good job at penetrating that market. There's still an awful lot of toilets that still need to be replaced, particularly in apartments, because the incentives were not as well used by apartment complexes as single-family homes. So ultimately, we see those will continue to change out over time.
Does San Diego County Water Authority rely much on groundwater resources these days, or is that?
That's a great story about San Diego. We in the 1800s we developed some reservoirs and built dams and created reservoirs up in the high country. So our first development of some water was surface water coming out of the local mountains. There's virtually no groundwater basins in San Diego County. There are some really small ones on a few of the river systems, but it amounts to only 1% or 2% of our total water demand in San Diego County.
Wow.
We're not like Orange County or Riverside County or L.A. County, where they have San Bernardino County, where they have significant groundwater resources. The geology of San Diego is marine sediments that are either very salty or just don't store water.
That does.
Now we do have a couple of agencies that have taken the saltier groundwater near the ocean, brackish groundwater, and they've desalinated that. It's again a small amount, but it's for those agencies. It's a meaningful supply for them.
Well, it kind of brings us up to the current situation about the new desalination project down your way. Can you tell us a little about that when it came online? How's it working? What does it mean for San Diego?
Yeah, and I hope we can go back and kind of fill in the gap between today and about 2000 in terms of how we developed more strategies and created other water supplies. But let's talk about the desal plant because We are so proud of having completed that project. It began about 2000 with feasibility studies, preliminary designs, environmental work, permitting. They survived. The developer, Poseidon Resources, survived, I think, 14 lawsuits challenging the permits that they received and the environmental approvals that they received. And it was financed at the end of 2012, went into construction in January of 2013, and it was built in less than 3 years, and we're producing now 50 million gallons a day, or about 50,000 acre feet a year.
Wow.
And it was commissioned in November, dedicated in December, and it's running full speed, full capacity right now. And that's about 10% of our water supply.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I read that the desal plant either is or has the potential to be carbon neutral based on its design and consumption of energy, which is really quite impressive. Do you have any info on that?
I can give you the general information on it. Several things internal to the technology of this desal plant is they used several energy recovery systems that have been demonstrated or have been used in smaller plants. And so we, towards the end of construction, or maybe 2/3 of the way through the construction, we agreed to add those energy recovery systems within the contract. And so on a per gallon basis, I think it's one of the lowest energy using desal plants. And then Poseidon has gone out and purchased renewable energy. I think it's mostly from solar, maybe some wind as well, but they have also committed to purchasing renewable energy to provide the energy for the plant.
Wow, that's really impressive, and I can only imagine what the trials and tribulations were over that decade of discussion and disagreements and lawsuits and all. That took a lot of foresight and determination and to see that through. I'm sure you would probably have some really good stories about that.
Well,
we will ask you
yeah, I'll just say that from 2000 to 2010, we were really struggling with, do we depend on imported water or do we depend on locally created water supplies? And as it turned out, our decision to support at least part of our water supply, 10% from the ocean, was a really wise decision for us, because what we're seeing is our imported water supplies are becoming more and more challenged. Climate change seems to be producing less water out of the Sierras and potentially less water out of the Colorado River system. So recycle water plants, desalination plants down in our county, and ultimately highly purified recycled water, or what we are calling, the city of San Diego calls it their Pure Water Project, similar to the Orange County groundwater recovery project. It's we know that we need to be more have local supplies that we can rely on year in and year out.
Yeah, we were impressed. We had a gentleman on from Orange County, Mihu Patel, and he was telling us about that. We were just thoroughly amazed at what they've done and how they're now working with LA and getting them started. I also heard that in some of these energy recovery systems, somebody had mentioned to me in a conversation, I don't know if it's true or not, that they were looking to put windmills out in the ocean versus on land because the winds are stronger there, and then they can pipe the power back to the plant. Is that something that you've heard of, or know is true or not true, or just a rumor?
Not specific for our project, but we sure are seeing a lot of innovative energy projects getting interest now that never got interest before. But for our project, no, we haven't. I haven't seen anything specific to our project.
So, how much has this for the overall strategy cost for San Diego? I mean, I can only understand or assume that one day you get a letter from somebody saying, "Hey, we're not going to deliver you water anymore," and that's kind of a shock.
Yeah, and our business community basically woke up and said, "Wait a minute, who's this county water authority? Who are they? And how come we aren't going to have water?" And they told us that we never want that to happen again back in 1991. And so our latest project is the desal plant, but between 91 and today, we have created the largest transfer from conserved agricultural water in the Imperial Valley and having that water conserved on the farms and transferred to us in San Diego County. And that will ultimately grow to about 200,000 acre feet, or 4 times the size of the desal plant. And at the same time, we funded the lining of the All-American Canal and the Coachella Canal, and the water that now does not seep out of those canals because they're lined with concrete, we now have created that new water supply, and that's a little more than 1.5 times the desal plant. So our strategy has been create more local water, create more imported water that we can count on at higher priority for decades, and create recycling in the county, more conservation, and ultimately we're going to purify recycled water or purify wastewater. So, yeah, this strategy is about. Right now, we spent $2 billion, and the desal plant alone is an additional $1 billion. So I always tell people we're about $3 billion into this deal.
Wow. But it's pretty impressive what you started back in '87 with.
That's right.
Yes, it seems that without the crisis, the impending crisis of an existing drought, we don't get the system to move as rapidly, perhaps, as some would like. But it does seem that when we are faced with these drought periods, that things start to happen as a result of trying to prepare for the similar situation that we know will happen in the future. Do you find that perhaps now there's more ongoing efforts just on a consistent basis, or do you feel there's still these kind of pulses of advancement tied to existing drought periods?
I have watched this for 30 years in the San Diego area, and it does come in steps. But since '91, on a per capita basis, each person uses 40% less water in San Diego County.
Wow.
So that has happened in a variety of steps. Some technology improvement. Obviously, all the toilets were developed and are being installed. People are landscaping differently. The landscape standards are totally different for new housing. People are letting go of their lawns, and they're realizing they can still produce beautiful landscaping without having a half an acre of lawn. And all of that is a progression. And I tell people it's going to take a generation to re-landscape Southern California. And as we get, we always know we're going to have drought periods. It's no surprise in Southern California that we have some dry winters and we have some wet winters. But we are in an arid climate, so we need to figure out better landscaping practices so we can stretch all of our available water. Our population has gone up from 2.4 million to 3.2 million people. That's 800,000 people since 1991. And we've increased jobs by 300,000 jobs, yet we use less water today than we did in 1991. Totally. We use less water. So, yeah, people we're continually seeing people think about water differently, value it differently, conserve it, change their behaviors and their practices.
Well, we understand that your water authority has been very active with the state board in recent months. Can you kind of tell us what you've been seeking and how is that effort going?
Yes, back in April, when April of last year, 2015, when the governor declared a statewide water emergency, and then directed the state board to come up with regulations, we were at all the hearings, and I testified that some of us are way ahead of the game. We've been conserving. We've been building local water supplies. We've been offloading off of the Delta, and we're building a brand new desal plant. So we're going to have a brand new water supply. We're doing all these ag transfers, and what we asked them to do was pretty simple: was don't just require everybody to cut usage. Give the agencies that have invested, in our case, billions of dollars, give them credit for creating new water supplies. So here we were last year in the fourth year of a drought in San Diego County. Yet we had 99% of the water our customers needed under a normal year. And the reason we had the water is we'd gone out and built all these projects. So we asked the state board, just don't tell us to reduce 25%. Give us some credit for bringing on brand new water supplies. Many of the agencies, like Orange County, did the same thing. And so they set the regulations with no accommodation for creating new water supplies last May. But then just last month, they have adjusted their regulations to account for new water supplies created after 2013, like our desal plant or like the Orange County's latest expansion of their advanced wastewater treatment system.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like the State Water Resources Control Board did listen to the feedback, and they've responded perhaps not as aggressively as some had wanted, but they are making accommodations, so that's good to hear. I think they were challenged by a very, very big task. They kind of were facing at the state level what San Diego faced back in 87 to 91, and that was a real crisis. By the time you got to 1991, it was pretty dire. So I've come to love the drink portal provided by the state government, and I always like to tell people about that and how they can look at their water suppliers' numbers as well as within the hydrologic region and the state level. So that was a pretty impressive website.
The state board has basically taken over water supply issues just recently. So they were playing a lot of catch-up. So, yeah, they had a big challenge, and it was an emergency, and it was a crisis for the state. What they didn't realize is that some of us have dealt with this for more than 25 years, and, we knew what we were doing. Yeah. We had already offloaded off of the Delta. We did not need any Delta water from Northern California in San Diego last year. And so it was just difficult for them to hear us when they were in the midst of their wake-up call. Sacramento was for the first time having to turn off water on lawns, and they were feeling it. They were seeing it every day, and now they had to develop regulations. So it just took a while to get through to them. But I think we've made some progress. We still want credit for all of our water that we're creating, and they haven't quite given us that much leeway. I think there's also some concern that this El Nino, if it fizzles out, there are going to be parts of the state that are still going to be in a lot of, in a crisis, yeah.
Yeah, we're all waiting anxiously for that April 1st measurement of the snowpack, the water content of the snowpack. But yeah, we've had a a very dry February here in Southern California, and thank goodness we had a wet January. But hopefully we'll see some snow and some rain in March or April, perhaps. So.
And you can't plan for El Niños. I mean, we've never taken that approach in San Diego County. We plan for long dry periods. So our water supplies that we've developed, desal, the transfers, recycle water, conservation, groundwater desalination as well. All of those supplies are, we look at them on a year after year under dry conditions. And so that's why we in San Diego now have such a secure and reliable water supply.
I heard a statistic that I know is, at least I believe to be accurate, and I was very surprised when I learned that out of the last 10 years, ending in December of 2015, so the last 10 years, only 2 of those years has Southern California had average or above average rainfall. And, so our infrastructure was not built on those kinds of statistics. It was built on having more, at least average rain years, more frequently than just twice every 10 years. So your approach, the approach that San Diego County Water Authority has taken has certainly been forward-looking. And I don't know if all consumers in the San Diego County area appreciate all the effort, investment that the authority has undertaken on their behalf to provide a quality, reliable supply of water. I think in general, Rob and I have learned about so many things that the water agencies have undertaken to assure the quality and reliable delivery of water, and it's just a year ago I would have said you had no clue. Just took it for granted. Turn on the tap and you get water that you can drink.
Sure.
So I think that's another step in terms of the overall ongoing education of the public.
Absolutely. So what's next for the Water Authority in your area in terms of supply diversification? We'll wrap it up from that.
Sure, be glad to. We are watching and assisting where we can with the City of San Diego with their purification of wastewater, or what they call the Pure Water Program, so taking wastewater and making it a water supply that is then brought back to reservoirs up in the county and distributed to to other water treatment plants. So it becomes a water supply. There are also other agencies, not just San Diego, that are looking at the same technologies and are doing pilot projects and looking to build those water supplies. So our next major water supply, we think, is going to be advanced treated wastewater, which is basically taking the highest level wastewater treatment that we have today and then putting desalination at the end of it. So you're basically treating the water to such a high level, it's actually better than the water we get from the Colorado River or from Northern California, and yet it still goes through another water treatment plant. So we see that as our next major water supply. That'll be probably anywhere from 15 to 20% of our of our next increment of water. And then we are doing advanced planning for another desalination plant. And we just don't believe we can count on any more transfers from outside the area. So we need to create whatever water we need in the future above what we already have is going to be created locally.
Wow. Well, I can tell you, we certainly appreciate having you on the show. Mike and I certainly learned a lot today, and I know our listeners have no clue what everybody's doing, and I think this was really good for them to hear as well.
But I think they need, certainly we echo the message that the value and the effort of California's water agencies is truly underappreciated by the average consumer. So we're out there trying to communicate just how much value they do deliver. And thank goodness, knock on wood, we don't have anything like a Flint, Michigan crisis to occur here in the state of California. And from the people that we've interviewed on the show, we know that our water supply is in good hands.
So, again, we appreciate you being on our show, Mark, and hope we'll have you in again.
Good. Thank you for the time. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you.
Well, you're listening to The Water Zone with Mike and Rob on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. And we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog. Or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
Are your monthly water bills draining your wallet? Then you need Valley Soil, your one-stop expert on water conservation to save you water, time, and most of all, money. With over 35 years of experience, Valley Soil has implemented numerous conservation programs for water districts throughout California. They have performed over 12,000 water audits and installed over 300,000 smart irrigation products for municipalities, residential, and commercial property owners, saving over 293 million gallons of water each year. That's enough to fill 15,000 swimming pools. Their services also include indoor water audits, leak detection, retrofits, reclaimed water systems, and managed water use and data tracking. As certified irrigation auditors and a state-licensed landscape contractor, you can trust them to be knowledgeable about the services you need, products they install, and best practices in water conservation. For an individualized water solution for you, contact them today at 888-268-1009. That's 888-268-1009 or valleysoil.com. Remember, when it comes to innovative ideas to save water, Valley Soil never lets you run dry.
Well, welcome back to the Water Zone with Mike and Rob, and hope everybody's having a happy Thursday. Hey, Mike, your vision that you see out in Southern California, and actually all through California, on irrigation, do you see a change from the typical type of irrigation to going more towards the drip, to getting rid of or reducing the amount of overhead sprays from, say, 12 feet below, and going to more on rotating nozzles, which have a larger area coverage? Do you see the move towards that with all the new regulations that all these cities are coming up with?
Well, I think that the rebate incentives that have been offered by Northern California and Southern California water agencies probably have driven the most change, and that now with the encouragement to, and I think inappropriate encouragement to convert turf to drought-tolerant native plant gardens, that tends to go to drip. So I see that the changeover to drip has been a little more aggressive this past drought year, and we think, based on information we've heard, that the Metropolitan Water District is going to announce in July a drip line rebate. We think 25 cents per linear foot, and of course that will have a fairly significant impact on the use of drip line products for planters and larger planter areas, and also with that kind of rebate, it might encourage some folks to reduce the amount of turf in their front yard. Of course, most homeowners I've spoken to and contractors say that in the backyard that turf is being kept because it just creates a great backyard environment. If the family has kids, they want a place for the dog and the kids or the kitten to cats to roam and have fun in. And so, I really think it's focused on the front yards, and so there will be a combination of both of those technologies. But we've also seen quite a lot of use of precision series spray nozzles, especially in that 8 to 12 foot range, because they're actually proven to be efficient in rotating nozzles at that spacing, that 8 to 12 foot spacing,
and especially the pressure compensated
and they're less
ones.
expensive.
Yeah, especially the pressure compensated ones as well.
Yes, because as you know, been touting the trifecta of water waste and outdoor irrigation as being, deferred maintenance, high pressure or low pressure problems, and of course the precision spray nozzles resolve the high pressure problems with the pressure compensating screens, but because they drop the flow rates by 35% over conventional spray nozzles, they also solve low pressure problems. So they're a great solution for both high pressure issues and low pressure issues.
Yeah, a lot of people should really, both in the residential and commercial world, should really check with their water agencies for all the great rebates. I mean, they're having lots of them. I think we talked last week about the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, who covers a bunch of different territories like Montclair, Rancho Cucamonga, Chino, and stuff like that. They have a rebate program for actually, they have an install program for smart controllers. They'll come out and do an audit, and they'll also install the controller for you, a smart controller, which I think is great. I know that Chino Basin is also doing the same thing. But there's a lot of things people don't realize that they can get for free or discounts and rebates back. And now's the time for them to really take a look at it, because, as you said before, and we all know, even if it fills the reservoir, they're not going to take the restrictions off. They're going to keep it on for a while just to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would recommend that listeners, homeowners, go to the website of their local water purveyor, because, this is really starting the season of water conservation events, sustainability conferences, open houses. I mean, these are great opportunities to come and spend an hour or two, bring the kids, usually games and gifts for kids, and some good food, and a lot of vendors that have their high efficiency technology on display. So go to the website, go to your water purveyor's website, and you can find out when they're going to have their water event.
Yeah, all next month is Earth Day month, so that should be good. Also, next week is our Agriculture Week, headed up by our micro irrigation group, and they have some good guests. A guy named John Lee, who's owner of the Pump Check in Riverside, and Dr. David Zaldowski, who you and I know. He's director of the Center for Irrigation Technology at California State University, Fresno, and he's a pretty good expert in the ag world, and both of those guys will be chiming in on what's happening in that part of the world.
I hear he goes both ways, turf and ag. He's an expert in both areas.
Absolutely.
So,
really.
I think that'd be great to listen in to Dave. We actually interviewed him on the show a couple months ago at the IA show in November, didn't we?
Absolutely. Yep. And I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and then he got with Ingy, and he's going to be on next week. So anyway, we appreciate that. We're about running out of time here. Remember, if you have any questions of us, especially of Mikeypedia, go to www.torowatersmart.com and pose your question. We'll get back to you and answer. And you have a good week. Use less water and stay healthy. And we'll see you next week.
All right, we'll do.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Exploring science in the sea. Beaches are among the most ephemeral natural features on the planet. They're built by wind and waves, which push grains of sand ashore, a process that can go on for thousands of years. But beaches can disappear quickly, in years, days, or even hours. The everyday action of wind and waves and rain